Alright, everybody, welcome to the Kansas City, Missouri Game Cafe Midseason Showdown. My name is Andrew Novak, and I will be your commentator for today. Round 1, we have Shotsberger versus Ethan Simpson. Two very successful players this season. Carl, of course, coming off of a top 4 finish at the Memphis Regionals in Sun Series, and Ethan just kind of doing well at regionals, a lot of top 32 finishes, and as of right now, these two are the top players in Kansas City in terms of championship points, so this should be a great match. On Carl's side, we have Incineroar, Tapu, Koko, Kyogre, Dialga, Crobat, and Ludicolo. And then for Ethan, we have kind of the new ladder craze here. We got the Lugia, Kyogre, Amoonguss, Incineroar, Tapu, Koko, and Gengar. So no surprise to see double Kyogre here, but it's the two restrictors that are paired up with them are really interesting. Lugia, not something that we saw at all during Sun Series because it didn't have access to that the Z move, which is so often run with it. Often trying to see maybe a Z Tailwind strategy, get the auto critical hit Aero Blast, do a lot of damage, just ignoring Xerneas. In turn with the bulk, just makes Lugia such a major threat. And then Dialga, kind of saw a lot of usage early on for its ability to wall Kyogre. But as Groudon has kind of picked up in usage, it's kind of seen a little bit of fall off. So really interesting to see what it's going to do here. Most often known as a Trick Room setter. So speed control in this game looks to be very important. Jumping into the game here. Game 1. Be really interesting to see how this goes. Kind of a cool matchup with that Dialga versus Lugia, because both Pokemon are going to play a very big part in this. But we see Tapu, Koko, Kyogre come out on Carl's side, and we see Gengar and Incineroar for Ethan. So right away, have to say that the Carl probably has a lead advantage here, just based off of what was led into the Kyogre. Not really a water spout switching, but we see that the Tapu Koko Electric Surge goes first. So the Kyogre is not Choice Scarf. That's something to note for Ethan. And whether that speaks to the Tapu Koko potentially being Choice Scarf or just not a very, or like was mentioned, not Scarf Kyogre, and is maybe something like an Electrium Tapu Koko. Just knowing that for Ethan is very important. But for Carl here, you have to assume you want to get Kyogre rolling right away. There's not a whole lot on Ethan's side can really switch into this water spout. Like whatever is going to take it is going to hurt a lot. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Ethan tries to potentially do to avoid this. And we see the Kyogre actually switch out, so just wanting to preserve that threat for the Incineroar. Potentially fearing maybe a Ghost DMZ from Gengar, not wanting to either just take a whole lot of damage with that or potentially get Destiny Bond KO'd. We see Incineroar go for the fake out on top of Koko, and we do see the Z move from Gengar, so very good switch by Carl. Safe play, just wanting to see, okay, what is this Gengar packing, and is it really threatening my how is it going to threaten my Kyogre? And it is that never-ending nightmare. So more than likely based off a Shadow Ball and into this Incineroar, so a perfect switch from Carl. This really isn't going to do a whole lot of damage. Yeah, about 15% maybe to that Incineroar. So great switch. More importantly, we know that Gengar does not carry a Focus Sash. And if the Lugia came to this game, it no longer has access to that Z Tailwind ability like was mentioned earlier. So still a really good spot for Carl. That Incineroar putting on a lot of pressure onto that Gengar, and which is starting to the top of Koko. Meanwhile, Ethan's Incineroar is kind of looking dead weight in the rain. Not going to do a whole lot of damage with that Flare Blitz. It's a -1. So maybe he wants to U-turn out or just start throwing off some Snarls to catch potential Kyogre switch it and just weaken that. But yeah, not a whole lot of going down for Ethan. We actually see Gengar protect, so maybe just wanting to keep itself away from an electric attack from this Tapu Koko, which does go straight for the Thunderbolt into that Gengar. Incineroar on Carl's side, going to U-turn. That is definitely a critical hit, and that's some very important damage off onto that Incineroar. That would probably done 10%, but now doing up to around 25. Just makes the ability to switch Incineroar in and out like it loves to do just all the harder. Just knowing that it's at that percentage, just kind of changing up the calcs that would be running through Ethan's head on when to get it in. We see the Dialga come in. Dialga is in a great spot, especially with that burn Z move from Gengar. That's kind of one of the issues that we had from Dialga. Was, yes, it's a very bulky Pokemon, but these Z moves just make it so much harder for it to actually take hits and be bulky, because it's just one big target and it's basically useless. We see the Kyogre from Ethan's side come in, and with the rain up, of course, we don't get an ability reveal on it, so we don't know the speed tier, so it could potentially be Choice Scarf, but could not be. We'll just have to see. Dialga's still in a very good spot. Gengar doesn't really threaten a whole lot of damage with Shadow Ball, while Water Spout, of course, Dialga being Dragon Steel, very especially bulky Pokemon, won't do a whole lot of damage back. But I just see Protect come out from top Koko, so revealing that is not a Choice Specs item. We do see the Water Spout come out from Kyogre. We're going before Gengar. We're feeling that is indeed Choice Scarf from that Water Spout doing about 35%. And here comes that Shadow Ball from Gengar. Just making that Incineroar switch in the previous turn all the more important, because if that was a never-ending nightmare, would have picked up the KO on Dialga. And we see Thunder come out from Dialga, getting the full paralysis while doing about 85%, 90 to that Kyogre, getting the full paralysis. Not more so important this turn because Kyogre is probably going to switch out anyway because the Water Spout's going to be so weak, but it prevents it from coming in later and just clicking Origin Pulse and still being the fastest Pokemon in the field. So really big turn in there from Carl. That damage being down is super important in turn, which is getting that paralysis, sets the Kyogre up for being dead weight in the late game. And now this Tapu Koko is just kind of free to just click Thunderbolt on whatever it wants. Not really switching on Ethan's side, besides his own Tapu Koko, Amoonguss, but we know he has his Incineroar in the back, so only one of those is going to be brought, and neither of those Pokemon really deal well with Dialga. So this duo from Carl is really putting out a lot of pressure. We see that Kyogre switch out for the Amoonguss, so probably wanting to protect himself from Carl's potential Trick Room option here. Amoonguss, of course, is a great Trick Room answer, which is clicking Spore and just buying yourself turns and just stalling out that Trick Room. We see another Thunder come out from Dialga, so not wanting to make the read on something like a potential switch, going something like Flash Cannon potentially, and that Thunder does absolutely nothing. But that is a really good switching for Amoonguss here, because more importantly, it's going to protect the Gengar for Ethan. Gengar, it's going to be a damage roll, I think, if it's going to be able to pick up this Dialga with Shadow Ball, but it would definitely KO the Tapu Koko with Sludge Bomb, and Amoonguss is going to protect it, make sure it doesn't get hit. Or on the other side, Amoonguss himself can go on the offense. It could be carrying something like Sludge Bomb, Clear Smog, or Grass Knot. So say Kyogre wants to try and switch in here, Amoonguss can just catch that and punish it. But we'll have to see. Still kind of a passive turn here, just with how this is going to be played. You might see some potential switching around on Carl's side, or even on Ethan's side. Gengar really isn't the Pokemon you want next to Amoonguss in these situations, so we'll have to see what happens. And of course, you see Tapu Koko switch out, not wanting to take that Sludge Bomb from the Gengar. Incineroar comes in, useless Intimidate, seeing these are both special attackers, and we do see that Rage Powder from Ethan. So prior choice that he does want to hold on to this Gengar, as Sludge Bomb does come out into Incineroar, doing a good bit of damage, and Dialga actually reveals Ice Beam. Don't really see that a whole lot. Very cool tech. Of course, very good for punishing the likes of Zygarde and Landorus Therian form. Two Pokemon which are considered great Dialga checks, and even does a lot of good damage to Groudon. So very cool tech here, helping him deal with this Amoonguss, which is now, probably thought it was pretty safe, but is now threatened with this KO. And of course, we see Terrain and Rain go down, so that Thunder no longer boosted up for Dialga like it previously was. But still, this is a very good spot for Carl. You have Ice Beam threatening the KO on Amoonguss, and something potentially like a knockoff or Snarl coming out from the Incineroar is going to do a good bit of damage to Gengar, or just whatever comes in. If I'm Carl here, or Ethan, I'm trying to get my Incineroar in this turn. This is just a turn where you get the Incineroar in, just burn a turn for them, buy yourself some time, and just kind of reestablish your board position because for Ethan this is not, he's just not putting a whole lot of damage out. This board position, he's getting threatened with multiple KOs, and it's just not looking good. We see that Amoonguss does switch out for Incineroar, so going to get this Intimidate down onto these two special attackers. So not really important there, but he does have Fake Out, which is the more important thing. We see the Sludge Bomb catching the Tapu Koko on the switch in. Very good read from Ethan. And Tapu Koko goes down, and more importantly, that's just going to free up this Gengar, and the Thunder misses the Gengar. So just like that, Ethan went from a turn where he was looking like he was in a turn where it's going to be double KO'd potentially into, hey, I just picked up the Tapu Koko, and now all the momentum is kind of with Ethan here. Be interesting to see what Carl goes with. See if the Kyogre comes in here potentially in turn with a just start clicking Water Spout, because you just after that turn, Ethan, that one Pokemon, while it doesn't seem big, that Tapu Koko was his way of dealing with the Gengar and the Kyogre to get around the Amoonguss potentially, was having to click Dazzling Gleam. So very important KO there for Ethan. That Tapu Koko is a very big part of Carl's game plan with getting damage out. We see the Kyogre come out. The rain gonna come back up, and this is an important part of Incineroar having Fake Out. And Fake Out is live, so we could see a Fake Out in the Kyogre from the Incineroar, try and buy Ethan a switch in potentially out into, say, his own Amoonguss. The Dialga, of course, now does have that full powered Thunder with Rain and Electric Torrent, so going to be doing a lot of damage to whatever it hits. If that's the Gengar, of course, Amoonguss we saw takes it very well, but just very interesting turn to how this game went with that last turn. Ethan was really just kind of on the back foot and just taking advantage of that switch in from Carl, perhaps kind of reckless, and just saying, all right, now you respond to me. Carl was kind of calling the shots for a while, and now it's on him to catch up to Ethan. We see the Shadow Ball come out from Gengar, just gonna pick off the Dialga, but he actually hangs on with 9 HP, and Dialga is gonna munch on that Wiki Berry and go all the way back up. No Fake Out into Kyogre, means a Water Spout's coming down, and that is a double KO for Carl Shotsberger here against Ethan Simpson, and that is a huge play from Carl. We just talked about having to make a play, and that was it. Not protecting Kyogre there. I like that a lot because hey, you're forcing Ethan's hand. Like, okay, you either get this Fake Out onto my Kyogre and you buy yourself a turn, or you just catch this massive Thunder from this Dialga onto your Gengar. And Ethan decided, all right, I'm gonna prioritize Dialga. The Fake Out on the Kyogre is too obvious. Carl, he says, it's like, you think that way? All right, I'm gonna just make this, and I'm just gonna clear the field with the strongest Pokemon in the metagame. You can't ignore it, and if you do, then I'm just gonna take this game and basically win with everything. And we see this Kyogre being paralyzed, no longer can outspeed Carl's Kyogre, so can't go for something like a Choice Scarf Thunder if it wanted to. And yeah, Carl just kind of has Water Spout, Ice Beam to lock up this game one. Very interesting game there. It was kind of a very switch-heavy board positioning game for the first few turns of the game, and then just these last few turns, just both players picked up the offense. In the one turn where Carl finally got that Water Spout off with his Kyogre, just gave him the game. And we actually see Carl reveal that he's Walterium Z on his Kyogre. So very interesting information reveal here. Personally, I thought he could have just gone with the Ice Beam Water Spout combination, but Carl just maybe thinking that could cause some issues, just wanted to lock the game up this way, and it does not KO the Amoonguss, and Amoonguss is going to heal up with that Wiki Berry and reveal Grass Knot of its own. So information trade there. Normally you want to preserve all the information possible, but sometimes you got to reveal it to win the game. But very interesting notes. So Carl does have that Walterium Z, while Ethan gets that information from Carl's Kyogre, but Carl gets the information that, yeah, Ethan's Amoonguss does carry Grass Knot. It is a threat to my Kyogre. That does over 50% or around 50%, and that is a Wiki Berry. That is a 50% Berry Amoonguss, so doesn't have to worry about like something else coming out. We see that Scald So even more information revealed from Carl. So Ethan now knows that there's no Origin Pulse. Just sees Water Spout Scald, and he's seen Protect, I believe. Actually, I don't think the Kyogre protected. But yeah, just all the information, very important going forward for Game 2 in terms of a new game plan. For Ethan, you definitely had to find a way to deal with that Kyogre. The 4 he brought was definitely... He was fully prepared for the Trick Room mode, I feel. Especially bringing Amoonguss and Incineroar. And no Lugia. Like, the Lugia there wouldn't have done a whole lot. Of course, we saw Dialga and Tapu Koko. So I don't think the Lugia needs to come to this matchup. But I do personally think that Ethan needs to find a way to better deal with that Kyogre. We saw his game plan was to try and hit it early with Gengar, with that Never-Ending Nightmare in pair with Amoonguss Grass Knot for the late game. And while I think that strategy could work if he plays correctly, just Carl positioned his board so well that he just never let the hit come off on a Kyogre. And especially just doing that, Ethan's just got to find a way, like he did with the Tapu Koko. The Tapu Koko was such a big threat early on, and just making an aggressive read to pick that off early on in the game was very big for Ethan. So potentially just adapting your game style just to try and pick off that Kyogre instead, potentially, is going to be very big, because that's really that's what was Carl's main form of offense. Yeah, you had Dialga throwing out Thunders and Ice Beams. The paralysis on the Kyogre was huge, but just that Ethan gave Carl's Kyogre one turn, and that one turn lost him the game. So you definitely have to find a way to deal with that big blue whale. And whether that's going to be from his own Tapu Koko, or maybe just getting Amoonguss out of the field early on in the game. Because for the 4 we saw from Carl, yeah, he's got Ice Beam Dialga, he has Incineroar, and that's really his only ways of dealing with it. Whether we could see a Crobat potentially come out from him if it has something like a Brave Bird to try and deal with that Amoonguss. But otherwise, Amoonguss kind of was able to do what it pleased, just didn't get swarmed because of Tapu Koko, but that Grass Knot puts a whole lot of pressure down on the Kyogre. We do see Ethan's Tapu Koko come out this game into the lead of Incineroar and Tapu Koko from Carl. We see Ethan's Tapu Koko gonna get that Electric Surge first, so potentially a speed tie, or his is just faster than Carl's. And we have the Gengar out again. We saw that this Gengar is Never-Ending Nightmare, carrying Sludge Bomb. So this Tapu Koko, kind of an interesting little dance with this Gengar. Yes, it can go first and just Thunderbolt KO it potentially, but in turn has to be worried about it not KOing and getting Sludge Bomb right back in return and just losing it for absolutely nothing. Be interesting to see what this Tapu Koko set for Ethan is. We saw a Z move on Gengar, and we've seen it on, it's probably going to be on the Lugia, so more than likely not carrying that Z move, but we do see Electro Web. So likely signifying that this is a Salt Vest Tapu Koko. A critical hit on Incineroar may or may not be important, but we'll have to see. Tapu Koko does throw Thunderbolt into Ethan's Tapu Koko, doing that little damage, more than likely signifying that this is indeed a Salt Vest. And we see the Flare Woods double up. Very good play from Carl, noting that the Tapu Koko is the threat to the Kyogre for the late game. Just getting all that damage off onto it, wanting to remove that threat immediately. But because it is Salt Vest, it does hold on in the red, so giving it another turn to potentially Volt Switch on out, get some more damage down on this Incineroar. Or just go for another Electro Web, get some more speed control. But now the endgame sweep for Carl's Kyogre is just looking all the better with that damage down. Not going to say protecting the Gengar was a bad play there, because of course you can just, it's Thunderbolt target, does such good damage, but that Carl probably noting that this is going to be Assault Vest on the Tapu Koko and that the Gengar wants to protect for that speed control, just making the smart play and just going after the Tapu Koko. We see Nature's Madness go down onto Incineroar, bringing to 61, Sludge Bomb double up, does KO this time. So that Incineroar off the field, very big for the Gengar, but it does catch a Thunderbolt, but it does survive in the red, so very big play there from Ethan. picking off that Incineroar, so no more fake out utility coming in for Carl in and out of the game. But more importantly, that's a threat to his own Amoonguss that is gone. So this Kyogre no longer has one of its friends to pick off the mushroom, which is kind of the bane of his existence. And of course, this Tapu Koko, being a Assault Vest, does potentially signal that it does carry Wild Charge, which will do a whole lot of damage back to the Kyogre. Of course, Kyogre being more specially bulky than it is physical. And yeah, that first turn Electro Web just paying such huge dividends for the Gengar. Letting it pick off the Incineroar, then the Tapu Koko not being able to KO it back. The Gengar now has Sludge Bomb pressure down onto the Tapu Koko, or it could opt to go for something like a Never-Ending Nightmare to catch the Dialga switch in, which will also KO Tapu Koko. So really good position here from Ethan, has a great pin. Carl really doesn't have a switch he can make that won't get punished heavily with offense, with the offensive pressure coming out from Ethan. Dialga does switch in for that Tapu Koko, so just coming in Nature's Madness onto the Dialga, predicting that switch in. Dialga gonna drop down to 102, and we do see the Never-Ending Nightmare come out from Ethan. So Gengar more than likely just targeting down this Dialga, and probably it was going to more than likely get the KO based off the damage that Shadow Ball did last game. Could be close. Alright, there we see all the arms exploding onto the Dialga, and it does KO. Very good read from Ethan. Noting that, alright, this isn't the greatest matchup, so I do have to kind of pick up my offense here. Catches the Dialga on the switch in, and we get the Cursed Body Scald on the Kyogre, which more importantly, it didn't go for Water Spout. Probably thinking that, okay, I'm in danger of getting hit by a Wild Charge, so I'm going to just play it safe, go for Scald, because Water Spout probably going to be weakened here. But yeah, just such a huge play, because that is another threat for the Amoonguss that is probably sitting in the back for Ethan. But we see the Kyogre come out first. Very good switch in here, because of course we saw it was Choice Scarf last game, and knowing that Tapu Koko is the last Pokemon for Ethan, just come in, Water Spout, do a whole lot of damage, more than likely KO the Tapu Koko. But this is more importantly where we get to see the attacking move of choice for Ethan. If it is something like a Wild Charge or a Thunder, should do a whole lot of damage to Kyogre. And I would assume that this combination of Water Spout and any strong electric move from Tapu Koko will KO this Kyogre. Otherwise, it could potentially fire a Thunder back of its own and KO Ethan's Kyogre. We see that Water Spout do a whole lot of damage. About 35%. We see the Wild Charge come up. This isn't -1, and it does not KO. Kyogre hanging on with 24, and Tapu Koko goes down to recoil. So just opening up this Thunder for Carl. Gonna go down onto Ethan's Kyogre, and it hangs on in the red. Just barely surviving, but more importantly, no full paralysis this time. And we see that the Amoonguss will come out for Ethan, just kind of putting out his win con, if you would say. This Water Spout going to be very weak, and so yeah, all of the pressure is on this Amoonguss to just pull it back. Of course, what's important to note here is Carl actually doesn't have access to Scald, so probably gonna have to fish for a Thunder Paralysis onto the Kyogre here, not on the Kyogre, onto the Amoonguss, and just try and cheese his way into a victory. Otherwise, this Amoonguss with that Grass Knot's gonna be able to KO the Kyogre, and Tapu Koko with just his dual stab option will not be able to beat Amoonguss. And at some point, this terrain's gonna run up, and Amoonguss will just be able to start putting things to sleep, like it loves to do. So really just kind of comes down to how is Carl going to be able to deal with this Amoonguss. Otherwise, Ethan just has this game 2 wrapped up. And we see Kyogre does go protect. Water Spout coming out from Ethan's Kyogre. Going to do a nothing to Carl's Tapu Koko. Thunderbolt into the Kyogre. Going to pick up the knockout there. And Ethan goes for the Grass Knot into Kyogre, so good protect from Carl. Just buying himself another turn to just get all the damage he wants down onto this Amoonguss. No terrain, so Amoonguss now has that Spore option. So I can put either of these Pokemon to sleep or could just go on the offensive for that with that Grass Knot, remove the Kyogre from play, and just let it solo down this Tapu Koko. Carl is really going to need a full paralysis here if he wants any chance of winning this game. Otherwise, Amoonguss will be able to bulk its way through the rest of this game. So, very well adjusted by Ethan there, in my opinion. Just keeping that. Oh, but we see a taunt from Tapu Koko. So saying, no, you're not allowed to play these spore shenanigans. And but the Hydro Vortex. Forgot that Carl has that Z move Kyogre. Gonna be able to get this big old Hydro Vortex. We saw this did around 60% last game. And just gonna come down on this Amoonguss, do a whole lot of damage. Spore was turned off, so if Ethan doesn't go for that Grass Knot in the Kyogre, just gonna buy himself another turn. But we do see the Grass Knot come out from Ethan, removing the Kyogre from play, and it is now Tapu Koko versus Amoonguss. But so, no Spore though is very big to note. However, we did see that 50% berry, so Tapu Koko, while it won't be able to be put to sleep, it has to get more hits off into this Amoonguss because of the berry, which does proc after this first Thunderbolt. So Amoonguss is going to go back up to 75% thanks to that Wiki Berry, and we do see the Clear Smog reveal. So Amoonguss doing a whole lot of damage back. We'll be able to KO the Tapu Koko next turn. So Tapu Koko gonna need a lot of paralysis cheese to win this, but otherwise the Amoonguss is gonna take this game. Like I said, great adjustment there from Ethan, noting on very early that okay, the Incineroar and the Dialga are the threats to are the ones that are gonna prevent this Amoonguss from winning. And we saw Ethan prioritize them right away. We saw that was especially with that Tapu Koko's Nature's Madness. We saw the Nature's Madness double ups. Turn 2, we had Nature's Madness Sludge Bomb into Incineroar for the KO. Turn 3, we had Nature's Madness Never Ending Nightmare into Dialga. Just realizing that okay, this matchup really isn't the greatest if I'm not gonna be able to take out these two. I gotta go for it. Like sometimes that's just all you gotta do. The worst of matchups can become better matchups if you just take the risk and get aggressive, and because all it takes is one play for you to get back into the game, to take a huge step forward in the game. And Ethan made 2 of those plays and just solidified the victory late with the Amoonguss because there was nothing to hit it from Carl's side. We saw the Hydro Vortex did over 60% to the Amoonguss, which was very good damage, but Ethan had it in the back perfectly. Let that Gengar Tapu Koko clear out the threats early on, and just let the Amoonguss clean up late game. That's usually something we don't see. We usually see Amoonguss setting up a late game sweep, not being the one who sweeps late game. Of course, picking up the KOs on the Kyogre and Tapu Koko. So if you're Carl, of course your mindset is, alright, I have to protect these Pokemon better, and your instinct is going to be, alright, maybe I had to play a little bit more defensive, maybe make less obvious switch-ins, but at the same time, you're still opening yourself up to reads from Ethan's side, like he made those like he made that last game. So this game 3 is really just going to come down to which side manages the threats better. Will Carl be able to preserve his Dialga and Incineroar for the Amoonguss, or will Ethan be able to utilize his offensive pressure with that Tapu Koko and Gengar to clear out those Pokemon again? It's going to be a very board position based game here, so it'll be really interesting to see how it goes down. I'm excited to see it. Be interesting to see the role of this Kyogre in game 3 for Ethan, especially with that lead we saw last game from Carl, that Tapu Koko and Incineroar. Scarf Water Spout could potentially throw a wrench in Carl's plans. Just, of course, Water Spout being at full power, such a great offensive pin, setting up switch-ins and potential KOs. But we do see that Ethan's going to go with the lead that won him game 2, and we see Incineroar and Dialga. So both threats the Amoonguss out right away. But Carl just kind of screaming, all right, you want to have to deal with these Pokemon. You dealt with them separately last game. Now deal with them at the same time. Like, ball's in your court. You do what you got to do. Incineroar, of course, providing very important fake out pressure here. Otherwise, this Dialga could just be targeted by a Nature's Madness, Never-Ending Nightmare once again. But Incineroar going to stop the Nature's Madness here, potentially onto that Tapu Koko. And just open up Dialga to buy a free turn, or something potentially like a Thunder or Trick Room. We know it is that Wiki Berry set as well, so no potential random Electricity from Z to just pop the Gengar. So, very bulky lead coming out here from Carl. Ethan, of course, same with that offensive pressure. We see Incineroar fake out the Tapu Koko. And we see Taunt from Gengar shutting down this Dialga. Dialga cannot go for Trick Room. Very good play by Ethan, realizing that fake out was probably coming out, and there was no way to KO Dialga. He says, alright, you may not be able to KO me, I might not be able to KO you, but I can still stop you for a turn with this taunt. No Trick Room goes up, which is very interesting, considering how much work Amoonguss did last game. But probably just wanting to buy himself some time, let the Dialga and his own Kyogre just kind of run wild under Trick Room potentially, and just deal with the Amoonguss at a later point. But now, this Nature's Madness Never-Ending Nightmare combo is live once again. Dialga, in fear of that, switches to Tapu Koko. So just kind of saying, yeah, I don't need this. But we see Ethan go for the Protect on his Gengar. Just not wanting to take anything from this Incineroar. We see Nature's Madness into the Tapu Koko. Gonna take it down to below half HP, and we see a Snarl come out from Incineroar. Gonna weaken the damage output of this Tapu Koko, but I think the only special move we've seen from it is Electro Web. Nature's Madness always doing 50%, and Wild Charge, of course, being a physical-based attack. But seeing that, the Gengar probably feels a little threatened at this point, knowing that its damage output is going to be increased. Yes, it can KO the likes of Tapu Koko with a Shadow Ball or Sludge Bomb, whatever it so chooses now, thanks to that Nature's Madness. But having to worry about taking another Thunderbolt from this Tapu Koko and a Snarl combination, knowing that it just burned its Protect, Carl is free to kind of chase after that slot with whatever he feels. So probably going to see the Gengar switch out here, maybe for the likes of the Amoonguss. Just buy himself some time, or his own Incineroar. Just buy himself some time. Preserve the Gengar for later, seeing how much work it did. But we see the Sky Drop onto the Incineroar for Ethan. And we see Thunderbolt from Tapu Koko gonna target the Gengar and gonna do a whole lot of damage. Same amount as game 2. And we see Tapu Koko going down to that Sludge Bomb. And Tapu Koko goes down, so the threat to Scarf Kyogre is gone. Gengar took a lot of damage for its troubles, but picking up that important KO. Interesting to see that was a Sky Drop there from Ethan. Just picking up that Incineroar, just buying a turn for Gengar to pick up the KO and hang around another turn to not get KO'd in return by that Snarl, because Gengar definitely would have dropped there. We see the Kyogre come out from Carl's side. Water Spout will do a whole lot of damage here. However, we do have that Never-Ending Nightmare still there with the Gengar. Gonna do a whole lot of damage to this Kyogre. So might have to see something like Kyogre's own Z move come out to KO this Tapu Koko, seeing that it was Assault Vest. Scald not going to KO. Assault Vest Tapu Koko typically run very bulky to take the combination of Water Spout and Scald from high amounts of HP, so you can get that Wild Charge off. But Incineroar here is in a very interesting spot. We could see it go for that Snarl, pick up the Gengar, or could just see a U-turn, get that Dialga back in, and just try and go for that Trick Room setup potentially. But this is a really, that was just a really good turn for Ethan there. Just, you get the KO on Tapu Koko, you still have your Gengar for future taunts on the Dialga. Shutting down Trick Room might be very important. But we see Amoonguss come in rather, for Ethan. Just kind of getting that threat out there right away. Scald from Kyogre into Tapu Koko. That Assault Vest just doing huge dividends and not KOing. We see the Snarl miss on Incineroar. That's actually on the Amoonguss. That's more important than you think. Of course, we saw the Amoonguss is carrying Grass Knot, so going to be able to have a full, well, could be Snarl again to make it -1, but just not Just having that extra stage, very important. And of course, Tapu Koko could just go for something like a Nature's Madness. We saw the combo of Nature's Madness and Grass Knot will be able to KO the Kyogre based off of the game 1 damage of that Grass Knot. So Kyogre is threatened by this combination, and of course that Nature's Madness doesn't let Dialga come in for free. I'm going to do a whole lot of damage to that if it connects, and just really weaken that. Of course, Gengar is in the back with the Z-move still live, and we see that Nature's Madness go off into the Kyogre. So going to take it down to right above half actually, but still in range of that Amoonguss. We saw the Kyogre go down to 103 after the Grass Knot in game 1, but we see the Hydro Vortex come out. We saw this is going to do 60-ish% to the Amoonguss, so Carl really just hoping that the combination of Hydro Vortex and Flare Blitz is going to be able to pick up this Amoonguss and just let his Kyogre stay around this turn. We see that do 65, Flare Blitz from Incineroar in the range, going to be weakened. Of course, no attack drops. Amoonguss does go down. Huge KO from Carl there, just letting his Kyogre hang around. Electric Terrain going down, so Tapu Koko's damage is now mitigated. However, Scarf Kyogre gets to come in and click Water Spout right now in combo of something like a Wild Charge, and Ethan is threatening a double KO on the Carl side. However, that Amoonguss is gone is so big for Dialga. Dialga, of course, no longer has to worry about being put to sleep. Couldn't go back on the Trick Room route. Scarf Kyogre being the last mon. The last mon coming out from Ethan's side. Gonna be able to do a whole lot of damage now with this Water Spout. Really no switch in here for Carl. Dialga doesn't, while it can take it, it doesn't want to take it because the Water Spout just puts it in KO range of Never Ending Nightmare. So just going to have to see what Carl opts to do here and how he's going to set himself up for future turns, because you know Ethan has a KO on turn. Just have to damage control which one do I want to go down. We actually, never mind, we just see Incineroar switch out for Dialga. I'm just going to take this Water Spout and just kind of hope that Ethan's Tapu Koko doesn't go for something like a Volt Switch, because if he Volt Switches out into this Gengar, then that's very big trouble for Carl, because that Gengar just has that Z-move pressure coming down. Dialga taking it well, but potentially in range of that Never Ending Nightmare. We see the Wild Charge into Kyogre. So now Dialga getting in like that now has that Trick Room option. So potentially risky switching from Carl is rewarded, and Dialga can now just kind of set the game up for as it pleases. Can go on the offensive with Thunder into the Kyogre, do a lot of damage, or just set up Trick Room and let his own Kyogre go to town. Of course, Scarf Kyogre, so not going to want to operate on that Trick Room. Gengar and Tapu Koko are two of the fastest Pokemon in the metagame. Don't want to play under that Trick Room as well, and there's really nothing on Ethan's side that can stop this from happening. Maybe if he does have Thunder, he'd have to go for Thunder and get a Paralysis. Otherwise, this Trick Room is going up, and it's looking very good for Carl. We see that Tapu Koko switch out for Gengar. I'm going to get in here, and we see the Water Spout from Ethan. Does a whole lot of damage to that Kyogre. And we see Kyogre go for Thunder. So risky play on that Kyogre. Staying in, going for that Thunder. Of course, Ethan could have just KO'd it with something like a Volt Switch. But the hard switch to Gengar lets the Kyogre get a Thunder off onto Ethan's. And now, Kyogre, of course, in range of both of these Pokemon having Thunder, it can get KO'd. Gengar gonna get knocked over by a Swift Breeze, and Tapu Koko being low on health, and it's looking really good for Carl. Just that getting Dialga in on that turn without Gengar on the field was huge. Just allowing him to set up that Trick Room, not having to worry about Taunt, not having to worry about Never Ending Nightmare, and just setting up the Trick Room and the game for Carl. All it's just going to take here is a couple of attacks, and Ethan just really doesn't have a way of stalling out 4 turns of Trick Room. Of course, Kyogre doesn't have Protect, being Choice Scarf. Tapu Koko doesn't have Protect, being Assault Vest. We saw Gengar has Protect, but can't deal with these 3 Pokemon on its own. Thunder into Kyogre, going to pick up the KO. That's 1. And then Thunder. Ooh, we actually do see Flash Cannon from Carl. So more information revealed there for potential scouting purposes. We see Flash Cannon. Most Dialga should carry Flash Cannon anyway. You want to be able to hit that Xerneas. And the rain does go down, but that's a-okay. Kyogre and Dialga really don't need that at this point. Tapu Koko comes in, gonna reset that electric terrain, and it is over. Just 2 huge turns there, kind of back to back from Carl that really set himself up for this game. Amoonguss going down was absolutely huge. Just drop into that Hydro Vortex Flare Blitz, no longer being able to pressure Dialga's Spore, or KO the Kyogre that turn with Grass Knot like he was more than likely going for. Just let Carl not have to worry about that, and just gave the Trick Room win con all the more life. And then just taking that risk of, alright, I have to get Dialga in here. Like, if you make the read of me switching in Dialga, then good game to you. Otherwise, I'm just gonna go for it. And he got the read, and of course, just setting himself up for that Trick Room, and of course, just winning the game. So very good set there. Great adjustments on both sides. Very good round 1. You can see why both of these players are so highly ranked, have done so well this season. But that'll do it for round 1 here at the Game Cafe Midseason Showdown. We should be back shortly for round 2, so stay tuned.